Okay, we are set to begin the next case. This is number 9. In the France edition. Die in the Sky. Oh boy. So here we are at the airport, Matthew. It's crazy to think that the last time I was here was when I arrived from LA. So much has happened since then. I made close friends with the team and even found my brother. But anyway, enough reminiscing. We're here to intercept flight MZA-142 from Mazunda, which is due to land any second now. According to Fabrice Dufour, owner of the Voyeur Peep Show, the flight is carrying a bunch of smuggled animals. Mr. Dufour was supposed to hand over a briefcase full of money in exchange for the animals. But instead, we'll be there to save the poor fur babies and arrest the culprit. General Matthew, our flight just landed. Let's get over there. Brigadier Bonnet and our officers have secured the plane, Matthew. Let's check all the passengers have disembarked before we scope out the cargo hold. Then we... Did you hear that scream, Matthew? It came from inside the plane. We need to head inside and see what's going on. Excuse me. Oops. I thought the briefcase was a clue. But it doesn't matter, I got the first star anyway. Matthew, this man is dead. He's been stabbed in the eye with the champagne flute. Daddy, please wake up. Grace Udoka. Oh goodness, where did you come from? You say this man is your father? My name is Grace Udoka, and that's my daddy, Chidi. Okay, sweetie, let's take you outside. Our colleagues will look after you while we look around. And then I'm afraid we'll have to ask you some questions. That poor girl, Matthew. She's too young to have witnessed something so awful. We owe it to her to find her father's killer. Judging by the size of this private suite, Mr. Udoka was some kind of big shot. Let's see what we can find out about him online. Looks like he's a businessman, and a successful one at that. Apparently he made his fortune exporting Mazundan coffee. Maybe putting together those plastic pieces will shed some light on what happened here. General Matthew, I've got bad news. We've searched the hold and there's no sign of any animals. What? But we know for a fact that they were on this flight. Sorry, General Matthew, someone must have got here before us. But I do have some good news. We've managed to round up all of the passengers that were on this flight. We're keeping them in a holding room. Looks like our investigation into animal smuggling will have to take a backseat, Matthew. Because before we can question our suspects about it, we need to discover if one of them committed murder. Should we start by putting together those plastic pieces or talking to the victim's daughter? I'm going to start by getting some stars, so sit tight, everybody. Okay, I got myself 9 stars. Let's talk to Grace first. Grace Sudoka. Grace, Matthew and I have some questions for you. You can ask us to stop at any time, okay? Am I in trouble? Not at all. We just want to get to the bottom of what happened to your father. Did you see who attacked him? No. Daddy always works during flights, but being on a plane makes you feel kind of sick. So I went to the bar to get a soda for my tummy, and I stayed there watching videos on KitKat. I went to go get Daddy when we landed, and that's when I found him. We're so sorry for your loss, Grace. Our colleague is going to look after you while we find out who did this, okay? Matthew, Mr. Udoka was obviously killed mid-flight, and that means one of the passengers or crew did it. I suggest you take a look around that bar Grace mentioned for clues. That's cool. Whoa, how swanky is this, Matthew? It's nicer than half the bars in Paris. Nice catch. That's our victim on the front cover of that magazine. Can you vacuum up some of those shavings to reveal the rest? And recovering the name on that cocktail shaker might tell us who was working the bar. As for those cushions, let's give them a quick search to see if they're hiding anything. This pilot license belongs to a Captain Jella Mambwe. I wonder how her license ended up in the victim's private suite, Matthew. Let's see what Captain Mambwe has to say about a murder taking place on her flight. Okay, we are back. Let's put a killer behind bars. Let's start with the white substance. Matthew, have you ever thought about changing up your look? Like shaving your head, for example? I can't say that I have. Why do you ask? Because the substance on the flight sock box was special shampoo for people with shaved heads. And what's more, I found traces of air sickness meds on the box, confirming that it belongs to your killer. They must be sporting a shaved head. Our killer has a shaved head, do they? They'll be getting more than a close shave with justice now that we're on their trail. Now let's get to the top of the glass. Matthew, I know time is of the essence, so I'll be quick. The blood on the champagne flute did belong to your killer. They must have cut themselves when they broke the glass to stab your victim. Score! Did you manage to get an ID on the killer? The DNA sample on the glass was contaminated by the other contents of the trash bag, so it was impossible to draw up a profile. But I can tell you one thing, your killer's blood type is O positive. Is that so? I've got an O positive feeling about catching this killer, Matthew. Matthew, we have all the evidence we need to put Chidi Udoka's killer behind bars. Got your cups at the ready? Then let's go. Okay, let's see who it is. Certainly not Grace Udoka. It's not Captain Momboy. It's not Tamu Wanjiku. I don't think Prince Amadu's head is shaved. Yep, I was right. Kasongo Badu. Mr. Badu, you're under arrest for the murder of Chidi Udoka. What do you have to say for yourself? That you must be a few crumbs short of a biscuit, honey. Nice try, but we know you smashed Mr. Udoka's champagne flute, cutting yourself in the process. Then you plunged the stem of the glass into his eye, killing him instantly. You disposed of the other half of the glass in the trash, then went to the bar where you wrote a note expressing remorse for your actions. I am sorry for what I did. I just lashed out. So you admit to killing Mr. Udoka, but surely you didn't commit such a vicious crime out of fear of being ridiculed. No, I killed him because he refused to acknowledge me as his son. His son? You mean the victim was your father? I only found out myself recently. My mother always told me my dad died before I was born. But a few weeks ago, she decided to tell me the truth. My mother had an affair with Chidi and got pregnant with me. Chidi had no idea. My mother said it was better that way. But I spent my whole life wishing for a father figure, General Matthew. I couldn't let an opportunity like that slip through my fingers. When I realized that Chidi was on the same flight as me, I seized my chance. I told him who I was and that I'd love for us to have a father-son relationship. But he replied that he never acknowledged a gay man as his son. I just lost it, General Matthew. I saw red, and the next thing I knew, he was dead. Mr. Badu, nobody should be rejected by a parent because of their sexuality. But murder wasn't the answer. I'm afraid you're under arrest. Mr. Badu, you stand before this court accused of the murder of your father, Chidi Udoka. How do you plead? I'm guilty of sin, Your Honor. I killed him, and now I'll never know what it's like to have a father. Yes, I see here that you lashed out after you revealed your identity to your father, and he rejected you for being gay. In light of these mitigating circumstances, I'm sentencing you to a custodial sentence of 15 years. I deserve it, Your Honor. I just hope the orange jumpsuit won't be unflattering. What a tragic end to the investigation, Matthew. If only Mr. Udoka hadn't rejected Kasongo's attempt to build a father-son relationship, he might still be alive. But instead he's dead, and Mr. Badu is in prison. And here I was thinking my family was complicated, with my runaway brother and all. Speaking of families, Grace Udoka's mom is flying out to pick her up. I just hope the poor girl recovers from her ordeal. Anyway, it's time to turn our attention back to the animal smuggling ring. We might have been too late to intercept the animals on the flight, but I wagered that we might still find some clues as to where they were taken. It's time to get back to work, Matthew. I'll see you guys for Walk on the Wild Side 4-5. Okay, we are back. Let's start Walk on the Wild Side 4-5. Matthew, now that we put Kasongo Badu behind bars for Chidi Udoka's murder, we can turn our attention back to the animal smuggling racket. We were on the ground just minutes after the plane landed, which means that somebody must have already been there waiting to unload the animals. Captain Momboy must have seen something. Let's go speak to her. Before you go, Matthew, I just had King Abioi of Mazunda on the phone. The king is an old pal of mine, and he's asked me to check up on Prince Amadou. Apparently he's in some kind of trouble. What do you want to do first, Matthew? Question Captain Momboy with me, or check on Prince Amadou with the High Commissioner? trouble seems like a higher priority. Your father tells us that you require our assistance, Votre Altesse Royale. Everything's gone wrong, General Matthew. The university I'm supposed to attend is saying they'll no longer accept me because of security concerns. They'll only take me if I bring a bodyguard. It's going to totally cramp my style. Au contraire, a bodyguard will add an air of mystery. The ladies will love it. Well, if you say so, but I don't even know where to find one. My dad gave me a tablet full of useful contacts before I left, but he's so useless with technology that he managed to erase all the names. Where is that tablet now? I left it in the plane bar. Could you go grab it for me, General Matthew? I'll pay you. Okay, there's the tablet on the table. Matthew, this must be the tablet Prince Amadou's father gave him. Imagine being so rich that you discard tablets like used tissues. We need to get the tablet unlocked if we're to find a bodyguard for the prince. There we go. Prince Amadou wasn't kidding when he said that none of these numbers have names attached to them. Hopefully Emil will be able to figure out if any of these numbers are for a bodyguard. General Matthew, now that Mr. Udoka's murder investigation is all wrapped up, am I clear to fly back to Mazunda? Not just yet, I'm afraid. What can you tell us about the cargo on your flight? That's not my domain. I worry about getting the plane from point A to point B, not about what's on board. Then you wouldn't know anything about animals being smuggled on your plane? Heavens no! But now that you mention it, the cargo was unloaded unusually fast before the passengers even disembarked. I guess that exonerates the passengers, General Matthew. Maybe another look around the cargo hold will shed some light on where those animals went. Okay. Matthew, the only thing that looks out of place are those leather pieces. Can you put them back together again? Okay. These look like a bit of I don't know. It looks like a muzzle or something. Just in time. This is a muzzle that you've put back together, Matthew. If this muzzle was used on one of the smuggled animals, we need to get it to the lab, quick! Now here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna speed these up. Starting with this one, the muzzle. I'll go ahead and speed up the tablet. So, but since I don't, and I know I don't have to wait. I know the next case is 2 weeks from now, but I figured I better get this over with. Emil, tell us that muzzle we found on the plane gave you a lead on the animal smuggling. You won't be disappointed, Carrie. The muzzle had a serial number on the inside. I managed to trace the serial number back to the retailer, and they had the buyer's details on file. Don't keep us in suspense, Emile. Who was it? The muzzle was delivered to the Cirque d'Étoile. The Cirque d'Étoile, a circus in Montmartre. A circus? toilet or something, I don't know. A circus? That's the perfect front for an animal smuggling racket. Matthew, looks like our next stop is the Cirque des Étoiles. I'll brief the others. Meet you back at the office. Now the tablet. Matthew, I swear, anyone over the age of 40 just shouldn't be trusted with technology. Excuse me, young man, I'm rather handy with an eyepiece. You mean an eye pair. Anyway, there was no way I could retrieve the names associated with those phone numbers on the tablet. So I had to call them one by one. There were chauffeurs, sommeliers, even personal shoppers. But I finally stumbled upon a bodyguard, Willem Nieuwoud. He used to be King Abioi's personal bodyguard, and according to our records, he now lives in Paris. Then this Mr. Nieuwoud must be the man we need to speak to, Matthew. Let's ask him if he'll protect Prince Amadou. Hold on. Okay, let's try it again. What's this about, officers? Mr. Nieuwoud, we asked you here because we know you used to work for King Abioi of Mazunda. Correct. Though King Abioi was only a prince back then, we sure had some adventures together, His Royal Highness and I. But I retired not long after I took a bullet for him in South Africa. Some crazy organization called Sombra tried to assassinate him, if you can believe it. Well, we were hoping you might cut your retirement short. King Abioi's son, Prince Amadou, is studying here in Paris and he's in need of a bodyguard. Prince Amadou is here in France? I haven't seen that little rascal since he was 14. I'd be delighted to look after him. There's just one thing. There are some anti-monarchists here who might wish the prince harm. Chidi Udoka was in contact with them. Could you obtain his agenda for me, General Matthew? I'm sure we can do that. We'll search the victim's suite, but not before we've had a bite to eat. Wonder if this is going to be another analysis to wait for. Do you think we might find Mr. Udoka's agenda in that overhead locker, Matthew? Then let's take a look. Matthew, those are the victim's initials on the agenda you found in the overhead locker. All we need to do is give this agenda to Mr. Newwood and reunite him with Prince Amadou. So it won't be. Great. Mr. Newwood, here's the agenda you asked for, plus a search in Prince Amadou. Willem, it's so good to see you. Prince Amadou, my boy. You've grown since I last saw you. You're almost as tall as your father. This is going to be so cool. You can be my wingman when I'm chatting up the ladies at uni. I think our work here is done, General Matthew. Hold up, General Matthew. I want to give you this. I bought it for college, but I'm sure you'll put it to good use. Well, Matthew, it's not often us French find ourselves running around after royalty. But I'm happy to have been able to do an old friend a favor. Prince Amadou should be safe in the hands of his father's former bodyguard. There's been a development on our end, too. We found a muzzle that might have been used in the animal smuggling, and according to Emile, it belongs to a circus in Montmartre. Well then, you know where you're headed next, Matthew, to the Cirque des Etoiles. Alright, let's wrap up this. October 15th, that's in 11 days. It's actually 2 Thursdays from now. Here come 5 more. Alright. That's what I'm going to do. Alright. And I'll see you guys on October 15th. See y'all soon. Sorry, my Bandicam stopped filming. Officers, what's this all about? My passengers and I have been detained, but nobody will tell me what's going on. There's been a murder on your flight, Captain. A Mr. Chidi Udoka is dead. What? Mr. Udoka is dead? This is terrible. The man is a household name back home in Mazunda, and he died on my flight? Management is going to be furious. Mr. Udoka was one of Air Mazunda's most frequent flyers. It was his first time flying with me, too. He seemed like a nice man. He even took the time to visit the cockpit and introduce himself. We found your pilot license in his private suite. How did it end up there? I must have dropped it while I was inspecting the plane before the flight. Now if you'll excuse me, I have to let management know what's happened. Got it. Recovering those flakes revealed that someone drew a cape around the victim on this magazine cover, Matthew. Clearly someone on the flight was a fan of Mr. Udoka. Putting those flakes under the microscope might tell us who our mystery artist is. Drawing pencils. These flakes you collected from the magazine cover are pencil shavings, Matthew. More specifically, shavings from special crayons designed for drawing comics. We met a Mazunda national with a penchant for drawing comics during our investigation into Marguerite d'Anjou's murder, Prince Amadou. We better go check whether Prince Amadou is among the passengers, Matthew. Howdy, General Matthew. Fancy running into you here. Are you off on vacation? Me? I'm back in Paris for good. I got accepted to college and everything. We're actually investigating the murder of Chidi Udoka. We believe he was on your flight. Holy cow! Mr. Udoka is dead? You knew the victim, Your Highness? Sure, everyone in Mazunda has heard of Mr. Udoka. If I were a prince, I'd have loved to become a hotshot businessman like him. If I'd seen him on the flight, I'd have introduced myself, but I had my nose buried in a dirty a textbook. Uh-huh. Jiku. Oh yeah, I remember that name. The name on this cocktail shaker is T1Jiku. This T1Jiku must be the flight attendant who worked the bar, Matthew. Let's see if they know anything about the murder. I remember that name. I think she's from the World Edition, if I'm not mistaken. Miss Wanjiku, were you aware of a Mr. Udoka traveling on your flight? Of course, I memorized the passenger manifest before each flight. Passengers love being addressed by name. That's a tip I picked up back when I was a bartender in the US. Always learn who your regulars are. Unfortunately, Mr. Udoka assumed that me knowing who he was meant that he could jump the queue and get served first. Miss Wanjiku, what would you say if we told you that Mr. Udoka was murdered with that glass mid-flight? Murdered? I say that I know nothing about it. Thank you for your time, Miss Wanjiku. We may have more questions for you later. What have I done? Matthew, there was a note hidden among those cushions. It says, "What have I done?" And there's a blood splatter next to it. If the killer might have written this note, then we better get it to the High Commissioner for analysis. And I'll see you guys when these two have run their courses. See y'all soon. We are back, and let's get the results of the autopsy first from Nadia. Matthew, I've been thinking, isn't it crazy how we spend all our lives working for money without knowing if we'll live long enough to spend our savings? Thanks to Paris rental prices, I haven't got any savings. But let's talk about our victim. What can you tell us about the murder? Matthew's assessment that the victim was killed by a puncture wound to the eye was correct. And after closer examination of the glass lodged in his eye, I can confirm that it was a broken champagne flute. That's your murder weapon, Matthew. What's more, on the stem of the glass, I found traces of groundnut catfish mafe, a traditional fish and peanut curry from Mazunda. And since I discovered that your victim famously claimed in an interview that he never eats such peasant food, It must be your killer who eats mazundan mafe. So our killer enjoys mazundan mafe, do they? They bit off more than they could chew when they committed murder. Hello there, Matthew. I'm racking my brain for ideas for a present for Gautier's birthday tomorrow. Have you got any suggestions? Well, I did overhear him say that he had his eye on a fancy new filing cabinet. I won't buy him anything of the sort. The boy needs to learn that there's a life outside of work. Anyway, I suppose you want to hear about that note you sent me, eh? First things first, Enzo confirmed that the blood was your victim's, which means that the note was written by her killer. They clearly feel remorse for their crimes. Unfortunately, the handwriting was too wobbly for me to ascertain anything about their personality. But it is a sign that they weren't feeling well when they wrote it. And I know why. The note was written on an air sickness bag. Your killer must be a sufferer. Well, there's no chance our killer will suffer from air sickness in prison. And you're right, Matthew. The victim's daughter said she had air sickness during the flight. I refuse to believe she could be responsible for such a crime, but I'll add it to her profile. I don't think Grace Udoka could do it. Matthew, we came to the airport to intercept a flight from Mazunda that was transporting smuggled animals. But we were too late. Someone managed to get them off the flight before we could get access. And now we've been waylaid by a murder. Mazundan billionaire Chidi Udoka was stabbed in the eye with a broken champagne glass during the flight, which means one of the crew or passengers is responsible. His tween daughter, Grace Udoka, is understandably shaken. Brigadier Bonnet is keeping an eye on her while we investigate. We also crossed paths with Prince Amadou, who seemed to idolize the businessman but claimed not to have seen him on the flight. And then there's flight attendant Tamu Wanjiku. She told us that the victim had a bad attitude, but that she put him in his place. Now I suggest... Look, there's the murder plane. Get snapping. We might catch a shot of the body. Now that I think about it, I think Tamu Wanjiku was from the conspiracy. When we return to Grimsboro. I'll see you guys for Chapter 2 in the meantime. Okay, we are back. Let's start Chapter 2 of Die in the Sky. We last left off with all those paparazzi shooting photos. So... Matthew, someone must have tipped off the paparazzi. Get snapping. We might catch a shot of the body. Stop right there. This is an active crime scene. You better leave right now or I'll book you off for trespassing. Ugh. Now that's sorted, Matthew. We should take a look around outside the plane. What's this weird device, Matthew? Maybe cracking the code will shed some light on what it does. And the guy in this photo was presumably on the flight, but his signature is illegible. Let's see if we can find a match for this man in the PPS database. Got it. You got this device unlocked, but I'm no clearer as to what it does. I bet Emil could figure it out. Let's get the device to him. Obviously, I'm going to be in my Zoom class tomorrow for my foreign language class. That's Samoan. So obviously, I kind of shot myself in the foot by not getting this done earlier. But whatever. Bet that's Prince Amadou. Nope, Kasongo Badu. The guy in this photo is called Kasongo Badu, and according to our database, he's a reality TV star in Mazunda. If Mr. Badu was on the flight, he might have crossed paths with our victim. Let's question him. Please, no photos, darlings. The flight gave me terrible under-eye bags, not to mention I'm so queasy with air sickness, I nearly threw up my mate. Actually, we're police officers. Ooh, the police. What am I being charged with? Being too fabulous? Mr. Badu, please. We're investigating a murder. A man named Chidi Udoka was killed on your flight. Chidi is dead? Oh, honey, that's terrible. So you knew the victim. When you reach the dizzy heights of stardom like I have, everybody knows everybody. Excuse me, but I need to post about this on my social media like right now. I'll see you guys when the mysterious devices run its course. See y'all soon. Okay, we have returned. Let's get the results of the mysterious device from Emil. Did you manage to figure out what this device does, Emil? I certainly did. It's a cockpit voice recorder. Every plane is fitted with one, as well as a black box. And you'll never guess what it captured. Listen to this. Women can't fly planes. Move out of the way and let me take over. Mr. Udoka, you can't. And it's followed by the sound of a struggle. That was Captain Momboy's voice, Matthew. Sounds like she got into some kind of altercation with the victim. We need to ask Captain Momboy why she failed to mention this earlier. Captain Momboy, you said earlier that the victim seemed like a nice guy, but the argument on this cockpit voice recorder suggests otherwise. How did you find that, General Matthew? I removed it from the cockpit. I suppose I'd better tell you the truth. Mr. Udoka didn't just visit the cockpit to introduce himself. The man came to tell me that women shouldn't be pilots and try to wrestle control of the plane from me. Mr. Udoka could have killed everyone on board if I hadn't stopped him, and I would have gone down in history as the woman who killed Prince Amadou. Thankfully, I managed to hold him off, but he snatched my pilot license and broke it. The man was a sexist pig. I'm glad he's dead. We're sorry you had to go through that, Captain Momboy. We just hope that you didn't take your revenge by killing him. General Matthew, what do you say we take another look around the plane bar for clues? Let's go. Matthew. These are pills for air sickness. We know our killer is a sufferer. Could these pills be theirs? Collecting a sample of those fibers will tell us. And how do you think this locket ended up broken? Only one way to find out. Let's put the locket back together. You got this locket back together, but the inscription is faded, Matthew. Can you recover the writing? This inscription reads, "To our darling daughter Grace, Mommy and Daddy will always love you." But the word Daddy has been scratched out. Why would Grace scratch her dad's name out, Matthew? Agreed. We need to question Grace again. Grace, we found this locket of yours. How did it get all scratched up? I did it. I was angry with Daddy and I wanted him to know it. What did he do to make you so angry? Daddy made Mommy leave us. He'd been kissing other ladies and Mommy found out. And now Daddy's dead and I'm all alone in the world, General Matthew. I want Mommy back. Nobody else takes care of me like she does or makes Mafe just the way I like. We'll have our officers look into your mom's whereabouts, Grace, but in the meantime, Brigadier Bonnet will continue looking after you. You got some of those fibers off of the killer's air sickness pills, Matthew. But now we have to send them to Enzo, and I think he feels pretty awkward after our awful date. Well, here goes, Matthew. Let's get the fibers to Enzo. $12. I'll see you guys when this is done. For now, this is Matthew. Thanks again for watching. We've returned. Let's get the results of the black fibers right now. Hey Enzo, how's it going? I'm great. Good. Why do you ask? No reason. Did you take a look at those fibers Matthew sent you from the killer's air sickness pills? Pills? Ah, yes. I found traces of Mafe on the fibers, confirming that they come from your killer. At first I couldn't figure out why the fibers were so stretchy. But then it dawned on me, the fibers are from flight socks, the kind you wear to avoid getting deep vein thrombosis during long flights. Matthew, you're looking for a killer sporting a pair of flight socks. Well, our killer will soon be pairing their flight socks with an orange jumpsuit, Matthew. And you're right. Both Flight Attendant Tamu Wanjiku and Pilot Captain Mamboy spend a lot of time in the air. They must both wear flight socks. Matthew, so much for wrapping up our investigation into animal smuggling. Because now we've got Mazundan billionaire Chidi Udoka's murder to solve. But who stabbed him in the eye mid-flight? We know his daughter was angry at him for driving her mother away with his cheating. Captain Mamboy, meanwhile, accused the victim of trying to wrestle control of the plane from her. Wait, why is the plane moving? Matthew, are we taking off? Somebody's not getting the memo. I'll see you guys for Chapter 3. Don't go anywhere. Okay, let's begin Chapter 3 of Die in the Sky. We last left off with this. Help! Stop the plane! General Matthew, are you okay? What happened? I thought we were taking off. They'd started towing the plane away. I managed to stop them just in time. Thank you, Brigadier Bonnet. Guess that's our cue to speed up the investigation, Matthew. Let's take another look at the victim's suite. eating a chicken tender, folks. Matthew, this folder clearly belongs to our victim. Maybe there's something juicy hidden inside. Can you get the folder unlocked? And something is written on this paper coaster. We better recover the faded text. As for those metal pieces, if you think there could be a lead, then I'll grab the glue. Matthew, we're closing in on whoever killed Chidi Udoka. We can't stop now. All right. Wow. The message on this coaster says, Tamu, humiliate me again and your family will pay for it. And it's signed by C. That must be Chidi, our victim. I wonder why Miss Wanjiku didn't mention that the victim threatened her earlier. Let's ask her. Miss Wanjiku, why didn't you tell us that the victim threatened you? Because I was afraid you'd think I killed him. Look, General Matthew, being a flight attendant isn't glamorous. I've had to learn to manage my air sickness, as well as how to scarf down a plate of hot mafe between serving customers. But the worst part is dealing with passengers like Mr. Udoka. They think the world revolves around them and that the rest of us exist to serve. He couldn't stand me telling him to wait his turn, so he slipped me that message threatening my family as I was refilling his champagne. And he could have done it, General Matthew. He was so powerful that he could have my family killed before we'd even landed. We just hope that you didn't decide that your only recourse was to kill Mr. Udoka before he could hurt your loved ones, Miss Wanjiku. Whoa, Matthew, check out this crown. There's only one member of royalty on this flight, Prince Amadou. But how did his crown end up broken in the victim's suite? We better see what Prince Amadou has been hiding from us, Matthew. Matthew, do you know if we'll be free to go soon? I'm getting kinda hungry. That mafe I ate during the flight just didn't fill me up. Not until we find Mr. Udoka's killer. So how about you tell us how your crown ended up broken in his suite? You found that, didn't you? I lied about seeing Mr. Udoka on the flight. I heard he was on board, so I swung by his suite to introduce myself. I thought he'd be happy to meet a prince, so I took my crown to show him. But instead he started telling me how he planned to use his riches to lobby for the abolition of the monarchy. My family are already barely more than figureheads, General Matthew, but Mr. Udoka wanted to take away our money and palaces too. Maybe it was the air sickness or the fact my flight socks were itchy, but I forgot my royal manners and told Mr. Udoka what I thought of him. And that's when he knocked my crown clean off my head. Well, being royal won't save you from doing jail time if we discover that you killed him. Moment. Lastly, got it. Matthew, you got the victim's folder open, but it's full to the brim with papers. Let's see if Emil can find anything among the documents. I'll see you guys when this has run its course. See y'all soon. Okay, we are back. Let's get the results of the open folder now. Matthew, are you more of an espresso fan or a latte lover? I'm a latte girl myself. I don't know how you French people can drink black coffee. It's so gross. I drank a latte once. It didn't sit well with my delicate constitution. Oh dear. But anyway, why the coffee talk? Because look what I found in the victim's folder. A mock-up of an advertising campaign for the Mazunda Coffee Company's new ready-to-drink latte, starring Kasongo Badu dressed in a cow costume. This ad looks ridiculous. And look, Kasongo's written, "I'm not doing this, Cheaty." Mr. Badu failed to mention that he worked for the victim when we questioned him earlier, Matthew. I say it's high time we had another chat with him. Mr. Badu, why didn't you tell us that you were the face of the victim's company? All of Mazunda wants this face on their product, General Matthew. I didn't see the point of mentioning it. You didn't think it was worth telling us that you had a disagreement with Mr. Udoka over his latest advertising campaign? Well, now that you bring it up, I must confess that Cheaty and I did have a bit of a spat. But his new advertising campaign was completely ridiculous, darling. He wanted me to dress up as a cow. I'm a sex symbol, General Matthew. I can't be seen dressing up as cattle. But Cheaty said that if I refused to model in the cow suit, he'd edit my face onto the advertisement anyway. My reputation would have been in tatters, honey. It would have been a bigger faux pas than being seen wearing flight socks with sandals. Matthew, the more we learn about Cheaty Udoka, the less I like the sound of him. We've learned that he clashed with Mazundan celeb Kasongo Badu, when he refused to dress up as a cow. And that he told Prince Amadou that he wanted to abolish the monarchy. But nothing compares to what he did to flight attendant Tamu Wanjiku. He threatened her family just because she refused to let him throw his weight around. Which of our suspects killed him, though? Another look around outside the plane should put us on the right track. I thought that was a clue. Flight sock box. I'm not going to get any help. Matthew, this is a box of flight socks. We know our killer wears them. Could this belong to them? The box is empty, but collecting a sample of the substance on it might give us a lead. And this bag of trash must be from the flight. Let's roll up our sleeves and see what's inside. Matthew, one last push and we'll have Chidi Udoka's killer in cuffs. I just know it. Alright, we better get that substance from the flight sock box to Enzo. Let's just hope it's less awkward this time. top of glass. Nice job, Matthew. That glass you found in the trash might be the other half of our murder weapon. Could that blood on the glass belong to our killer? Enzo will tell us. I'll see you guys when these two are done.